Okay. Hi, Jon Williams.
Hello, Lori.
Man, I haven't seen you in person in years.
You know, it's funny. I was sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, when is the last time I've literally had like a face-to-face talk with you? And it's been a while. I see
Yeah.
all your stuff, your posts, and everything, and I probably see you on social media 3, 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Um, so
I'm here way
I
too much.
I feel like I see you, but that
Right.
just shows you the way society is right now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I've had those feelings with COVID-19 because, you know, I didn't realize how much I miss seeing people in person because you do feel like, oh, I talk to them all the time. And then
Right.
once I couldn't get together with girlfriends and have lunch and coffee, and then it's like, my people. It's
Well,
so
and that's
hard.
what we're all struggling with right now. There's places that won't let you into their work. There's people that obviously are
Yeah.
having to quarantine. There's places that you can't get into. I have a lot of friends that can't go to their place of business, and everything's from home. And so
Right.
interaction with people in whatever variety you can get it is people crave it. I remember because I PA so many things that I would get to a point where I would put up a thing going, I'm PAing or public address announcing for like 17 times this month, and I would say it in a way where I'd be like, oh, God, I would do anything
To
to
do that
public
now.
address announce um,
Yeah.
any sport right now. I would do. You're running for
marbles.
office. How has
I
COVID
am.
changed the way that you would have run a conventional campaign versus the way you're having to run it now?
Oh, it's so different. I was planning to get out in around April when the weather got nicer and start knocking doors and meeting my neighbors and introducing myself and, asking questions about what they need from the county and mostly explaining what a justice of the peace is because I don't think anybody really knows.
What is a justice
But
of the peace in 30 seconds or less?
justice of the peace, I compare it to a city council, only it's for the county. So the
Oh,
mayor and the county judge are administrative roles, and then the justices of the peace on the quorum court and the city council. We manage the budget, we do land use approvals and things like that, road projects, all of that stuff comes through the JPs. Yeah.
it's the sheer definition of what everyone says when they say your local government.
Yes, very much. Yeah. And it's interesting that we don't, especially here in Springdale. So my whole district is in Springdale and it's
Am I
really
in your
easy.
district?
Huh?
Am I in
I
your
don't
district?
know. Where are you living right
I'm
now?
here in the lovely environs of the Williams Villa right now, and we live in Johnson.
No, you're
Okay,
not in my district. You
I'm at.
were like, okay, well that was good.
Eh,
Thanks,
no,
Don.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But I've lived in Springdale now for
Yes.
15 years, and
Well, when you lived over off of West End
mhm.
or over here near
Right.
West End, you were that is my district. So you
Okay,
would
and
have been. So
also when I lived over across from Thornberry, is
yeah.
that in your district?
That's a little far north. My
Okay,
district ends at the county line. So
okay.
everybody north of that is in
And that's
Benton.
exactly, I was one of the few Benton County Springdale residents
Yeah.
when you live over there, which is
Right.
a,
Right.
I have
Yeah.
now lived in the absolute Miami-Dade of Springdale, which is where I live now. And I have also lived in Bangor, Maine, which is basically
Yeah.
the where
You've
Bethel
been,
Heights is.
oh, so campaigning has been strange because I haven't been able to host events in person and I
Right.
haven't been able to meet people. And so I came up with this idea of doing the candidate chats for people to meet me and also for me to talk to people in the community and introduce people in the community that I think are doing, interesting things, cool things, or that just have a perspective on Northwest Arkansas that I think is interesting. So
Yeah.
uh, you check a couple of those boxes. So
When you've been around as long as I've been around,
exactly.
you check all the boxes. But
Last
I got excited when you asked me about it because this political, uh, I guess you would say, season is about as passionate as I've seen. And I think this is the definition of down ballot
Mhm.
because everything, of course, is presidential and
Yeah.
16, 20, and 12 and all that. Where the rubber meets the road is in the local elections. And
Mhm.
that's where, I mean, obviously the big election that gets the most notice is obviously the presidential, senatorial in some states, not here, obviously. But well, seriously, I mean, it's
Yeah, I
such
know.
a foregone
Sad.
conclusion, especially the way certain people got kneecapped.
Yeah.
But I mean, justice of the peace, and this is obviously something that people don't have. They need to know. They need to know how big of a deal this is and how their day-to-day lives are affected by elections like this one.
Right. Especially, I'll just roll with that and tell you that we're hearing a lot right now about a state tax on that's going to be it was a 10-year tax for the roads, and now they're wanting there's going to be a ballot issue on November 3rd to continue it, and it's going to become permanent. And so that's one tax. But county taxes are levied and bond issues are levied. We just passed one last fall last fall or last spring for new radio systems for county EMS and sheriff's department and all of that. A lot of our tax dollars that we're paying at the sales when we buy something, and also fuel tax, is absolutely governed by justices of the peace, by county. And so if people don't like taxes, they need to be paying attention to who they're electing as a JP, and pay attention to what the JPs are doing. I mean, quorum court meetings are online, and you are well, in normal days, you can go to quorum court meetings, comment, make your voice heard. And it's through watching some of those that I decided I needed to get involved. And I saw that there was not as much transparency in the budgeting process as I would like. And for example, that radio system that we voted for last year, it's going to sundown after a certain amount of money is raised. But our county judge recently told the quorum court that he went ahead and signed a contract without talking to a consultant, as had been discussed. And that contract is probably going to be more than what was approved. So that kind of stuff happens, and it's crazy, and somebody has to be in place to make sure that it doesn't happen. So that's what I'm hoping to help rectify. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
And that's the thing also is that these are the races that people need to know about, and they don't understand. They don't understand what's the difference between, and why are those things like a state representative, my city council people, what are wards, the JP, and it's unbelievable to me how people are not more aware of it. And when we have all this social media that people could be using, what made you, is this the first elected office you've run for?
No, I ran for school district in Fayetteville in 1995. I had worked at the Fayetteville High School for 3 years, and a situation that happened my last year there made me think that I needed to run for school board to support some things that I didn't like. So I ran for school board, and it was against Reed Greenwood in his first year to run. And he trounced me, of course. But I have to say that was exciting. I didn't buy signs. I had no support or understanding of how to run a campaign. I think I went to one, a teachers union maybe had like a candidate meeting, and they asked questions and stuff. I think I got their endorsement. I can't remember for sure because it's been a long time ago. But I ended up with something like 450 votes. And I was so excited. I was like, look, I don't know 450 people. So somebody voted for me that didn't know me. So that was pretty exciting.
Wow.
But that's the last time. That was the first and only time I've ever run. And so this is definitely different because I'm supported by the party, and I'm actually trying to figure out how to be a candidate, and it's a little bit, and I'm doing my research and, attending meetings and all of that stuff. So it's a lot different. But,
so how has the interaction been with the current elected officials, or has there been any? Because I'm not sure how to go with just the way things are and the environment they are.
So with JPs, I've had a lot of support from folks who are already on the quorum court. A lot of, the Democrats are supporting the fellow Democrats who are running. So I've had a lot of talks with them about just understanding how, like, for example, the budgeting process works, what kinds of topics come in front of the court most often, what are some of the challenges they've had on the court. I haven't talked to the county judge yet. I'm not sure if I will do that in the next 40 days or not, but I have been just paying attention. I watch the meetings. I've been watching the budget meetings. There's one tonight that I'm not watching, so I'll be watching that tomorrow on the recording. And then it's just doing a lot of reading. Like there's a whole part of the state website that is about counties and like how counties are run, what the statutes are that govern the quorum court and the judge and everything. And so doing a lot of that kind of stuff, researching so that I know what I'm talking about when I answer a question. And I had to answer questions for Tom Sissom at the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And then the Northwest Arkansas Board of Realtors asked me a set of questions as well. And that helped kind of solidify, I'm a person that's like, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to help all these things. And so it really helped me kind of hone in on, okay.
Very Elizabeth Warren. I have a solution to every problem.
I do. I have a plan for that.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
How did that go? How did it go with the Board of Realtors? That's interesting. Some of those meetings to think about it.
Yeah, it was good. It was, it's their PAC. And so I haven't heard if they endorsed me or not yet. It was just, my meeting was just 2 days ago. Or my interview on Zoom. I think it went well. They asked a lot about, of course, the growth in the community and what do I see as being things that are going to be a problem in 3 to 5 years, or challenges, I guess. And then they talked about, they asked me what I thought about habitability laws, which of course Arkansas does not have. So
I was going to say, what habitability laws?
Exactly. I think the quorum court someone on the court last year brought forth an ordinance, or tried to bring an ordinance forward, and I don't know if it was voted down or if it just never really got voted on. But so that was a topic of discussion. I'm very much in favor of habitability law,
Sure.
even if it has to be done locally. And I think that there's a basic expectation that everyone should be able to have of safety and security in their home. And, we have to be able to meet that. And then after that, details can be sussed out. But I think we have to have something on the books that says, look, you can't be a slumlord and think that that's okay. And the point I made to them was, this is not just about people. It is about people, but it's also about the county, because the county collects property taxes. And if we have folks who have properties all over the county that are in state of disrepair, they're not doing a good job for their neighbors, and then property taxes are not going to be, what they should be.
Right.
So that to me, it's not just about being a bleeding heart liberal, which I sometimes look like.
I'd never label you, Lori. I would never label you.
I'll label myself. It's okay. Anyway, so those have been good. Those have been good things. I have all these questions here for you, Jon.
Okay.
And I'm really glad you're asking me questions.
Yeah, this is your forum. This is your show. I have a show every day. So people are tired of hearing from me. They get 4 hours a day of my nonsense. So they want to hear about you. But I'm delighted to answer any questions you might have.
That's a great point. And I actually did have to write myself a note to make sure that I tell people to go to my website, because I never remember to do it.
Well, now they're going to have to.
I know.
They're going to have to, yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. Now if they're going to see this, otherwise
Right.
You and me chatting.
Yeah.
Tell me though about your early days of being interested in media as a career. Like, when did you go, oh, that's my thing?
Oh, this is a true story. There's a picture of me at 4.5 years old holding a Tinker Toy microphone. I have made a microphone out of a Tinker Toy, and I am interviewing my infant little brother. Because early on, I became absolutely enamored with not talk shows, but game shows.
Yeah.
Like Price is Right and Match Game was big when I was like 5 years old. And I immediately gravitated towards broadcasting at an absolutely way too early age. And that really kind of just stayed the way it was when I was a kid. I was so into sports, and I idolized local broadcasters in Denver. And that's what I swore I wanted to be. I wanted to be the next Bob Costas. I wanted to be the guy who would do the play-by-play, the studio host, and all that stuff. And that's what I went to college for. That's what I came to the U of A for. I came to the U of A to both play baseball for Norm, which is a whole other story that lasted about 10 minutes when I found out that I could not throw 96 miles an hour. But I stayed at the U of A because the minute I got here, it reminded me a lot of Boulder, or near where I grew up. And I stayed and went to school for broadcast journalism. And my very first job was for Rick Stockdale and Kyle Kellums at KUF. And that was back in 1993. And I've been in Northwest Arkansas and in broadcasting ever since. It's what I've wanted to do basically my whole life.
I first heard about you, or heard your voice, when my girls were, I moved here in 1990. So you've been here almost as long as me, but I grew up, this was my family's hometown. So, or home county, I guess. And so when my girls were young, we were living out in Goshen, and we would drive into Fayetteville every day because I worked at the university at that point, and they were going to school at Washington Elementary. And all the way in, they had the radio in the morning, and I got the radio on the way home. So on the way in every day, it was John and Jen in the morning every day. So that's where I first got to know you. And then I followed you, I think there was that stint at the Eagle.
Oh, I was at the Eagle for a while.
Yeah.
I was on the Eagle. Well, we created the Eagle before I was even with Jen. And that's a funny story. I was on the Eagle from 1997 to about 2001. And in 2001, my general manager at the time came to me and goes, listen, our competition, you're beating them, no joke, like 5-1. You think we could put you on the top 40 station and you could be Power 105.7. Do you think you're good enough? That's what he said to me. Do you think you're good enough? And there's no other way to get me to do something than to challenge whether I'm good enough. And my partner at the time, Zach, I'll never forget this. He heard the phrase, do you think you're good enough? And he went, no, no. And sure enough, I took up the challenge, and we did top 40 for 4 years. And we were on 101.9 for 4 years. And then we went back to the Eagle in 2005, where I stayed till 2011. And so we were on the Eagle for quite a long time. Yeah.
I think that in there, I wasn't listening to you as much, but then I'm back now with 94.9. I mean, as soon as you guys played Dave Matthews Band, I was like, that's it.
Which we play quite a bit of. We play quite a bit of Dave Matthews.
And not just Crush and Satellite. Like every now and then I'll hear a little something else. So yes, I'm very happy about that.
I got to give all the credit in the world while I'm on here. And every time people bring up the music, I immediately just give all the credit to Deke. The music, while it's something he and I talk about and we agree on all of it, he is the driving engine for everything that happens on that station musically. So it's all, whenever we get compliments on the music, which is a lot, I always give her all the credit to Derek.
Well, he does a great job. I love the mix.
He does.
And so that leads me to my next question for you about Deke. Do you think that you have tempered Deke, or has Deke roughed you up a little?
Both.
Because I know. Both. I think it's a combo, right?
Yeah. I think there was a funny bit we did one day, because there's this perception. He's been calling me the mayor for years because I'm very diplomatic on the air, and I own the show. So I mean, I all the people that you hear, I'm not going to name them here on your thing, but all the
Okay.
people you hear on our show, which you hear liberally, they're my partners on the show. And so I'm very diplomatic. And then Deke can push the envelope a little bit. And I said, you know, what's funny is we ought to do a bit on this show where it's like opposite day, where
Mhm.
I'm like you and you're like me. And he goes, yeah, we have that. It's called Off the Air. Because there's a lot of truth to that. I'm a
Yeah.
lot more unfiltered off the air, as people who follow my social media can
Mhm.
attest. And
Mhm.
he has really, I don't want to say matured. He's always been mature. I think he's the most talented person I've ever worked with. He's far and
Mhm.
away the best jock I've ever worked with. But we used to be crazier. And
Mhm.
he specifically used to be crazier. And he has, I don't want to say the phrase mellowed, but he is certainly, he's reined it back a little bit. He's got a 10-year-old daughter that he
Yeah.
is an amazing father to, and he's great on the air, and he never says anything that would embarrass her. And so it goes both ways
Yeah.
as far as how he and I have influenced each other, for
Yeah.
sure.
That's the impression I get. It's a little bit of a softening and a little bit of a
Yeah,
bringing it up. Yeah. Yeah.
he pushed. It is, that's very true. And um, I have let my political flag unfurl a little bit on the show.
Yeah.
And for people who know me really well, I've been a moderate, I would say almost Republican, most of my life. I did vote for Clinton, but I voted for McCain.
Mhm.
I'm a huge John McCain fan, an admirer of his politics and as a person. But
Mhm.
I, it's just unbelievable to me that I feel like my my personal politics, it's almost like, have I lurched to the left or has everyone lurched to the right? I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening, because I find myself on the very dark blue of most of the arguments lately.
Yeah. I think you're right about, like, we could be standing where we were. My political views have shifted as I've gotten older, but not as much as just politics has taken a hard
Right.
right and left. I mean, things are
Yeah.
just so much more polarized. Yeah.
I would
I don't
almost
get
call myself a Lincoln Project person.
Republican. Yeah.
These are people who I think ideologically I'm further to the left than them, but I do agree with a lot of their frustrations as people who I think they would describe themselves as moderates,
Yeah.
mostly, and they now find themselves very very left, and
Yeah.
very blue, and that's what is happening in this country. You nailed it. The polarization is stark.
Yeah.
Uh,
It
and
is.
there's not a lot of middle ground, and that's why I think you've seen the polls nationally not really budge
Mm-hmm.
in the last 5-6 months. It has been a 6 to 7 point aggregate lead in the polls for Vice President Biden, and that's I'm interested to see what happens after the election, whenever
So
everything is tallied,
as you
because
talk about personal brand, how what have you made, like, did you make a decision, or has it just kind of evolved that you started talking more about who you are? Like, what kind of concern did you have about, like, losing advertisers or listeners or something when you started kind of being a little bit more open about who you are?
well, we're in a really red state, but
Yeah.
we are on a blue island in a red lake. I don't know
Yeah.
how we could put it, because Fayetteville's blue, but
Yeah.
obviously Benton County's quite red.
Mhm.
I just felt like I had to be true to myself. I knew I was going to alienate people on the right side of the spectrum, but hopefully they would respect. I mean, I'm not hateful. I just,
Oh, no, no.
I, I,
I think you do a great job of stating your case, saying what you believe, and then holding space for anybody else to disagree with you. Like, yeah, you're not pedantic at all.
I try very much to be um, tactful. I,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like to be a shin kicker,
Yeah.
as I like to say on the show. I'll, I share a lot of links, and I'm like, well,
Mhm.
here's the story.
Yeah.
It's not my opinion. It's just how it is. But I will say this: I pick my battles as far as social media. I'm a lot more cautious on Facebook than I am on Twitter. On
Yeah.
Twitter,
Same.
I'll let it fly. On Facebook, it just seems to be more of a community of friends. But on Twitter, it's just let it
Yeah.
go. And so I do it that way. I don't worry about my partners because I'm very respectful of all of their views. And I have partners that are very, very left. And I have partners that are very, very right. But I believe in what I believe, and I just I don't present it in a way that would alienate my partners, or I hope my listeners. But you can't make everybody happy. Once you start talking about your political beliefs, you're going to start alienating people, and that's just the way it is.
I had my website and my Facebook page for my candidacy set up when I filed last fall, and I'm a writer, so I wrote very reasonable things on my social media, on my website.
Absolutely.
And but then I got accused earlier this year by this person about that I was pretending to be a moderate, and that I'm really, a crazy leftist, and I'm really a progressive. And they say, the way that word is used is so negative, but to me, progressive means I'm thinking ahead. I'm proactive. I'm thinking, what kinds of things are we going to have coming at us that we need to be progressive about? But
you're thinking of solutions for problems down the road. Yeah.
But I understand progressive is nasty. And it was funny though, because I saw this comment and I was like, on my website, it says progressive. So I don't know. I don't know what it is about me. I think what it is that I refuse to be drawn into drama. I'm sure you've seen some of the drama that happens in Springdale politics.
Every day.
So
Every day.
I refuse to get into that, because to me, it's not about being left or right or progressive or what conservative or whatever. It's being an adult and being reasonable. And I'm not gonna have fights with people I don't know in Facebook comment threads. I'm happy to chat with them in person, or, well, probably not in person, but if they have a question, send me a question. But anyway,
we have a show page where, I'm not gonna lie to you, we'll put funny stuff up about the current inhabitant of the Oval Office, and there's people who are very thin-skinned about that. I don't know how the word snowflake could ever be affixed to one side of the political spectrum. You got to be kidding me. But I would say, and I said it earlier, labels are for soup cans. I don't think progressive, liberal, conservative. I'm sure you've seen the graphic on social media where they go, Biden believes all these things, Trump believes all these things. I don't know one person that agrees with the entire left or the entire right. I don't. And there's a lot. I look at it and go, well, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah. And that's why I really don't buy into the narrative of complete allegiance, blind allegiance to political parties. And I've never really done that at all. And I don't today. I find obviously there's ideological arguments I agree with more than others, but I'm not what you would call a yellow dog Democrat. But I think if you give me 15 or 20 like issues, I'm sure I would lean that way. But you shouldn't worry about how people label you or whatever. I think people are going to see day in, day out during your campaign that you're the right person for the job.
Thank you, John. I believe, I am a person who likes to collaborate, and I have no problem working with people who have different ways of thinking about things. My biggest thing is that when I'm thinking about the work that's done by the Quorum Court, I want to be able to find solutions that serve the people and that conserve as much of our fiscal, or keep our fiscal responsibility in mind, and bring enough. I want to bring people to the table that have the expertise. One of the questions I was asked in the Board of Realtors interview was whether I'd be willing to talk to people that are experts in the field of whatever subject, and I was like, of course. I mean,
Why would you not?
I'm a freelance writer. Like, what do
I
know?
Did they say it like this? Did they go, let's say we have a pandemic, and let's say there's a pandemic, and there are scientists and medical experts who tell you to handle it a certain way. Would you ignore that advice or heed that advice?
Listen to that? I think I know the answer to that one. That's an easy one. Yeah. So, and I said, I don't feel like, I'm not running for office because I feel like I have all the answers to things. I'm running for office because I feel like I have some ideas, and I have been here long enough that I think where to get the answers. That was something I learned with Clay Edwards on the university campus when I worked in the development office. He was a great mentor, and he taught me that it was perfectly fine to say, I don't know, to a question, and say, let me get back to you. And then you just go find the answer that the person needs. And it's just a no-brainer to me that that's, of course, how you should run any kind of elected position that you have. You go to the people who know the things, you collaborate, and you get the answers that you need.
That's how we adult.
That's true. That's how I parent.
We are in an election year where you literally just had to say, I listen to people, I find experts, I sometimes don't know. And all of a sudden, like, that's an amazing slogan.
Wow.
What a platform that is.
LaurieMMarshall.com.
Yeah. I mean, so how much of a fan of Parks and Rec and Leslie Knope are you? I have to know.
Okay. I haven't finished that show, but I think I got about 4 seasons in, and it's just the best. I relate so much to Leslie's, like how my dog is whining, excuse me.
Oh, your dog's great.
I relate to Leslie's excitement about solving problems, and how she's like the rubber band gun, you've got her pulled back, and as soon as you let her go, she's just off. And that's kind of how I attack things when I get excited about something. I'm just like, let me at it. So
Springdale is your Pawnee, is what it is. Okay.
Oh, whoa.
Well, Springdale would be so lucky.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Okay, let's see. What are my other questions for you? Okay, so here's one.
Okay.
If you had the ear of a local candidate like mine, what would you want them to know as a citizen, like as a resident of Washington County? What do you want JPs and quorum court and things to know about what you think are needs of the community? Like, as a citizen looking forward, what do you see that needs to be addressed at some point in the next few years?
What it used to be was transportation. It used to be sprawl. Not sprawl per se. I'm from Denver. That's sprawl.
Yeah.
But it used to be the highways. But now, I mean, it felt like, it's funny. They're mostly done with it now. But that felt like it took 8-9 years to get 49 to be 49 and things like that. Yeah. But now I think there seems to be a lot of territorialism with the towns. I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know when it started, because I lived in Fayetteville from 1991 through 2004, and I've been in Springdale ever since. But my goodness, it just seems like there is a lot of territorialism between Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville, and now Siloam, and then surrounding areas. And I mean, maybe that's just a natural thing. That's in every place that has kind of a strip of cities like we do. But I find it to be almost adversarial between the towns. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it was worse back in the day when every town only had one high school, and now
Yeah.
every town has two high schools except Fayetteville. I mean, I know they have smaller high schools, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's a Harbor, Springdale, Bentonville West, Bentonville, Heritage, and Rogers. So that's one thing we talk a lot on our show about. And I know that a lot of people would just say, well, that's just civic pride. I mean, we're big into, Deke and I both are Springdale residents now. We're big into going, man, yeah, y'all are sleeping on Springdale.
Yeah.
There's only one town in Northwest Arkansas that has a professional team, and guess who it is? And so that's probably the one thing that pops up immediately to me. Other than that, I think the schools in this area, I mean, I'm blessed that my son went to Harbor, proud Wildcat, but all the schools in this area seem great, like great schools. And we're very, very fortunate, I think, to live in Northwest Arkansas, which it's never going to be bubble proof, but due to the way our economy is kind of set up with the three major companies in the U of A, there's a reason why it shows up on the best places to live in America year after year after year.
Yeah.
But I think Springdale, and so I'm narrow casting here, I think Springdale is as good a place to live in Northwest Arkansas as any. I love it here, and I don't ever plan on leaving. And I have a lot of the business leaders in Springdale I'm friends with, and I think it's slept on as far as it's always Fayetteville versus Bentonville or Washington County. Man, Springdale's pretty great. I think it's great here.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it's hilarious. I swear I didn't know you were going to say this, and I know that you didn't know that one of my things on my platform is that I think Northwest Arkansas needs to start thinking of itself as a metro area.
Absolutely.
And because the corridor, and Siloam too, but they're a little bit further out, but I lived in my early 20s in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, you know, you drive from Dallas to Fort Worth and you never know that you're going from town to town to town.
Right.
And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that we've got to start thinking about as far as budgeting for services, like recycling. Why does every town have their own recycling center? Why can't we reduce costs and bring people together to create systems from city to city and from county to county and from county to city that will help streamline services and make it easier for people to find things? We don't want to have to go to 14 different websites for the town or the county or the district or whatever to find the things we need. And so anyway, that's one of my big things is we need to start thinking about, especially like thinking about the census numbers coming out next year and the growth that's going to just continue because we are on those lists. We have to start thinking about, okay, we are all in this together and we're bleeding into each other, and we have to start thinking of our neighbor town as being just, you know, another municipality that we can work with.
I do know that from basically the Missouri border to Greenland is all one town.
Yeah,
and basically it's all one town that has municipalities and different borders. And that is the way where I'm from in Colorado, it's almost one city from Fort Collins to Colorado Springs. Like it's a 2-hour drive, and there is no it's all developed. It's all sprawl. And now you got Lowell, which is famously between Springdale and Rogers, and you've got Johnson, which is famously between Fayetteville and Springdale, and all these towns. And it's just kind of a amorphosized kind of amoeba-like existence where there's different laws depending on how 5 minutes north or south you drive.
Right. And
it's unusual.
I feel like our towns can still, I think there's an opportunity for our towns, and they're already starting to do this, to really brand themselves to be like, Springdale is highly diverse. You know, here's what's great about Springdale. Fayetteville is more liberal university, Bentonville business, Rogers has a lot of cultural stuff and diversity in the lake. So I think we can still have team pride for the municipality because of those things that make us special. But I think, in terms of the services offered and the websites and all of that stuff, And, you know, I mean, there are laws about what each city can spend their money on and all of that. So I know that there's restrictions, I'm sure, about certain expenditures, but there's got to be a way to somehow, especially on a county level, bring some things together and make it, you know, just get us together. And like you said, just get rid of the animosity or, you know, the rivalries.
It is, and I know that's that way in anytime there's a string of municipalities and towns, there's always going to be, you know, civic pride in whatever town this is, but it seems like it's stepped up. I think it's 500,000 is the ADI from Eureka to Siloam and like Anderson, Missouri to the tunnel. I think it's over 500,000 people now, which is, for you and me, we've been here for so long, that is a crazy number.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when I lived in Goshen, driving into town, even when I moved here in 1990, but definitely when I was a kid, coming from my grandparents' farm to Fayetteville, like it took 1,000,000 years.
Yeah.
And it was like 6 miles.
And it was all pasture.
Yeah, it was all trees and pastures and Sun's Chapel, and that was it. Like there was nothing else. And you just, it's just so different now. And every place is like that. Coming, you know, going from Fayetteville, I don't think when I was a kid we ever drove north of Springdale, and we barely came to Springdale.
We never went north of AQ. Ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And my mom and stepdad have lived in Benton County the entire time I've been here in Fayetteville. So I would always go. They lived off Highway 12. They lived at Beaver Lake. They over by Prairie Creek Marina. But that's because they lived there. Had they not lived in Rogers, I would have never gone north of Springdale ever. And now you have it is where everything with Pinnacle and Bentonville and the square now in Bentonville. Now it's reversed. You have a lot of people in Benton County who don't go south of Rogers anymore because everything's up there now. And it's
there's no reason. Like the Tale of the Trout restaurant in Rogers. that was the place for fancy.
I haven't thought of that place in so long.
I know. And that it took forever to get there. The one time I've been, my aunt took me when I was a teenager, and it took forever to get there. And it was in the middle of nowhere, which is now right across from, it's like on New Hope is where it used to be. And so, you know, it's just amazing to think of all those changes. And so that's only been 30 years. So then when I think about, okay, well, so for the next 10 to 15 years, holy crap, what else is going to be completely different than what my kids grew up with? It's pretty daunting.
Well, trying to explain to my kid what Pinnacle used to look like.
Yeah.
There was nothing there 15 years ago. And when I say nothing there, I mean nothing there at all. Yeah. And so it's definitely the growth in Northwest Arkansas rivals about any place in America. It's been crazy.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to get to our last topic on my list, at least. And that's movies. So I know you are a huge film fan, and I want to be, I'm like person like that loves movies, but then they can't remember the name of the titles, or they don't necessarily know every film every director ever made, but I love movies. I think that actually the only thing that I've missed during COVID-19 is going to the movie theater. And we have a projection screen. We can watch movies, but I miss sitting in the dark with my giant bucket of popcorn.
The trailers.
The trailers and the movie, the production company's title coming up and the sound. I just love it. I love everything about it. So I want to ask you some questions. I know you have like top fives of films and things that you love. You've done a lot of different top fives on your radio and stuff. What are some films? What are some films that you feel like have shaped you, like maybe from youth or even as an adult? Or what are some of the films that you're like, this movie helped make me who I am as a person?
Well, the first movie I always come to when I talk about movies that influenced me was the first movie I ever saw in the theater 3 times, which was Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet Society hit me when I was 19 years old, which is, by the way, the age of my son now. And for people who've never seen Dead Poet Society, spoiler alert, even though that movie is 30 plus years old, it is all about following your dreams. And it is all about carpe diem, seize the day. And I walked out of that movie theater basically going, I have to find my passion and I have to do it. I can't settle for being a, A, B, C, or D. I've got to do what I want to do. And from that moment on, I laser focused what it would take for me to be in broadcasting.
That's awesome.
And so that movie had an enormous impact on my life as far as following my dreams. The other movies are just movies I love. I haven't really had movies speak to me from a standpoint of the moral of the story is I just appreciate movies from an acting standpoint, how they're directed. It's funny, my son and I, because he's not a big jock, he's not a big athlete. He's athletic, but he's not in a lot of sports. I think that he and I have bonded over movies the way a lot of fathers and son bond over sports.
Yeah, I see that.
He has become as, if not more knowledgeable about movie making and movies themselves than me. And I'm about 50 years old. And I am absolutely, I have such an appetite for movies, but it's even beyond that. He's going to the U of A to learn from Larry Foley about documentary making, reporting, and things like that. And I'm so proud of the path he's taking with that. And I think a lot of that is how much we love movies. And he has his favorite directors. I've got my favorite directors. I'll watch just about anything from Paul Thomas Anderson or Martin Scorsese. I'm a huge, and it's weird, of all the people I could have said this about, I'm a huge George Clooney fan. I will literally watch about anything he does. And I've argued ad nauseum with people that Michael Clayton is one of the 10 greatest movies of the last 15 years.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, Lori.
I'll go. I'll watch.
It's his best movie. It's his best performance. I know he won an Oscar for Syriana, but that movie is all about somebody who is trying to be two things at once.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant. It's so good. That movie's really good. Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies. It's funny. If I started talking about, I don't know that I'd stop. I own like 500 DVDs back when people used to play DVDs, and now I get mocked by Deke all the time about all the DVDs I own. But yeah, movies are a huge passion of mine, and love watching them.
Well, what's a movie that you tried really, really hard to like, and you just can't do it? Even if it's a popular one.
We've done this bit on the show many times, and every time I say this movie, people they can't believe it, but I cannot get into Rudy. I can't do it. And look, just because I can't get into it and I haven't loved it doesn't mean I don't think it's a good movie. I'm sure it's a great movie. I just can't get into it. And then there's older movies like Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
I couldn't even finish it. That has not aged well.
No.
There are other movies that people I'll tell you another movie that I like a lot, but I do not love as much as everybody else. Oh, this is probably going to make you throw your computer when I say this. Is The Princess Bride. I do not see. Look, people are honking at me from over here. They're angry at me for saying that. They're listening to this. They're angry.
You've caused a stir.
Doggone it! This never happens. But Princess Bride, which I like, and it's clearly a great movie. I think I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
That's probably my answer, and I know I'm going to get absolutely roasted on the internet for this, but that's the one I would say.
I get it. I like Princess Bride. I do like Princess Bride, but I wouldn't put it at a top, top 10.
There's these people who say it's their favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, no.
They mean it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I love quoting it because it's got some terrific lines. I mean, I'm constantly telling my kids, have fun storming the castle, and stuff.
Oh, no, those incredible quotes, and that word does not mean what I think you think it means.
Yeah, so many good quotes. But that quotes do not make a film. So
no, they don't. They don't hurt, but they don't make a movie. Yeah.
I think my favorite makers are the Coen brothers. They're the ones. My brother and I saw Raising Arizona in the theater together in '87 when it first came out, and I knew who Nicolas Cage was because I fell in love with him when he was in Valley Girl.
Oh
and
yeah.
then he was in Raising Arizona, and we probably went because we knew who he was. We
Was
didn't know who.
Moonstruck before or after Raising Arizona?
I want to
can't
say it
remember.
was after.
Probably after. Cher won the Oscar for that, and
Maybe just the next year, like real close.
yeah.
Anyway, but we watched that movie, and Brian is an illustrator, and was, I think, on his way to art school, and I was a theater geek. I was a drama nerd and stuff, and so watching that movie we sat through the whole thing going, and at the end we were like, there are other people out there like us. Like, this was the most ridiculous film, but it was so beautifully done. Like, just the script and Holly Hunter, and oh my gosh,
John Goodman and all the Tex Cobb and everybody.
Oh yeah, and people were leaving the theater. Like, during the scene, I remember distinctly during the scene where Nick Cage is running down the street with pantyhose on his head, carrying the bag of diapers, and he's running, and Brian and I are just crying with laughter, and there are people getting up and leaving the theater, and we're like, what is wrong with these people? And
I don't know. That's a genius movie, and I think one of the hardest things to do is to come up with the Mount Rushmore of Coen Brother movies, and to me, it is Fargo, No Country for Old Men, which might be a perfect movie, Raising Arizona, and then The Big Lebowski. That's my four. And but then again, then you start thinking of all the movies you just left out.
Yeah, I know.
They're just geniuses.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou that was just beautiful.
You want to know my son's favorite Coen Brother movie that nobody ever brings up is, I believe it's A Simple Man.
I haven't seen that one.
It's the movie they did right after they won the Oscar for No Country for Old Men, and it is a very intimate movie to them. It's based in 60s Minnesota, where they grew up. It's the kind of movie you make after you win an Oscar, and that is a movie that's no one ever brings up, but it's fantastic. And they've done a lot of other great movies and things like that. But Raising Arizona is on their Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah, it was great. We actually, after we saw it, went to find the first. That was the second film they did. The first one was Blood Simple, and that was. I don't remember how we found it. We had to go hunting for it, but that's another one.
First time that Frances McDormand worked with them, and then ended up marrying him. She was a dish. That was a long time ago.
I love Frances. I just appreciate you taking the time to chat, and I will remind people, if they want to look at what I stand for in my campaign, LaurieMMarshall.com. I'm on Facebook, but probably if they're watching this, they're watching it on Facebook. So at Laurie Marshall JP, and I just appreciate you taking the time. I mean, the mayor was on last time, so you had some.
Wait, Mayor Sprouse?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed.
It was a great conversation. We talked about how the county and city works together, and what works and what doesn't, and things like that. Yeah, it was really a good chat. I've had several people actually tell me, "Hey, that was a really good conversation. Thanks for doing that." So,
well, I'm honored to be with His Honor.
The mayor and the mayor. This month was the mayor's. Yeah.
But no, I had a great time, Laurie. I appreciate it. And anything else I can do for you, just let me know. And Laurie Marshall for Justice the Peace.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, girl.
Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.